All right, good afternoon, everyone. So, what I wanted to do today was make a short video for you. Last time we talked about graphing square root functions. Today, we're also still going to talk about graphing square root functions. However, we're going to talk about it in the context of what if there's a negative on the inside there, and how does that affect what our picture looks like? Right, because obviously before, negatives on the outside, no big deal. They would just flip the thing over. Negatives on the inside, though, however, do change our picture a little bit differently in a way that may not be super intuitive, right? So the first rule I need to remember with square root functions is, as my friends are texting me here, that the whatever's underneath the square root cannot be negative, right? So if I'm going to try and find the domain of this thing, I know that negative x has to be greater than or equal to 0, right? So if you remember our rules from inequalities, when I divide by -1, granted, 0 doesn't change, but because I divided by a negative sign, I know that that's got to flip. And so what that means, and when you think about it, I think it makes sense, all of the x values that will be a part of the domain of this function have to be less than or equal to 0 or negative, right? And I think that makes sense, right? If I plug in a negative number for x, the negative that's in front then cancels out the negative, therefore making whatever's underneath a positive number. I think that makes sense. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make a quick table for myself. Again, just to see what happens. I know I can use 0. If x has to be negative, maybe instead of using, if you remember from last time, -1, or instead of using 1 and 4, I'm going to use -1 and -4. So if I plug in 0, well, that's still 0, so I have the point 0, 0 right here, this guy. Well, -1, plug that in, the negative cancels out, I get the square root of 1, that's 1. So I get -1, 1. And then -4, negative cancels out, square root of 4 is 2. So I go over here, -1, -2. Right? And all of a sudden, this thing looks like that. You can hear my daughter probably in the background here. But that's okay. So you notice, instead of how with a negative on the outside, it flips things vertically, right? It would take something that opens up and make it open down. This negative on the inside flips it left-right. If you remember our basic square root function, it went up and to the right. Well, this one goes up and to the left. So what I wanted to do, let's make this quick video, 1, to demonstrate that, and 2, to talk about, okay, well, what if there's a bigger expression on the inside? How do I deal with that, right? So if we go to the next page here, let's say I have something like f of x equals, we'll put a 2 in front, square root of -x minus 3 minus 4. So something like that. And how do I deal with it? What does it look like, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create my axes here. Let's go, I got that. Let's create another one here for my y-axis. He fits right there. Perfect. So when you see something like this, and the key here that I'm looking for, do I have a negative in front of my x? First thing I'm going to do is factor that out. So I got negative x plus 3 minus 4. Right? Hope you're with me so far. This, now, I'm going to follow the same exact steps I did before. Right? 1, my starting point. I'm just going to look here. I know it's going to start at -3, -4. Right? I look at what's in that parentheses. I ignore the negative on the outside because all the negative does is flip this thing over. Right? And now when I make my table, this d square root of d square root of d times a, when I pick my distances of 1 and 4, just know now that this represents to the left as opposed to the right. So now this is up 2, this is up 4. So again, instead of going over 1 to the right, I'm going to go over 1 to the left and up 2. Right, and then back in my starting point here over 4. Oops, I guess I didn't make this long enough, but that's okay. And up, oops, and up 4. And then draw my picture that way. So I hope that was helpful, right? Obviously today you're going to have a little bit more practice with negatives on the inside, and I put some negatives on the outside there. So I just want you to pick 2 problems and work on those. You can submit them for some feedback if you want. I'm going to work on getting all this stuff from yesterday back to you today, or not yesterday, from Friday back to you today as well. All right. Also, later this week, we're going to have a full class Google Meet, most likely Thursday, as my wife will be home. So it'll give me a chance to actually sit down with you guys and not have to worry about my daughter running all around. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.